It's time to cross the T's and dot the I's on the rest of the week's top stories with his now radio talk show host, Mark Levine. There's Fox and Friends, Steve Doocy, and Fox Business correspondent Dennis Neal. It's all guys today, and we're going to start with a comment made by Senator Jim DeMint. He said you cannot be a fiscal conservative and not be a social conservative. Is that true? And do statements like that, what do they do to the people on the left and people on the right? Mark Levine, you want to start with this one. You go ahead and take it, because I'm going, it's kind of a double negative.
I think it's absolutely untrue. Of course you can be a fiscal conservative and a social liberal. I'm one. Most Democrats are one. I mean, look, to be a fiscal conservative, you have to believe it. Like when I studied economics at Harvard, that what that means is that you don't spend when you have normal budget times, right? In normal times, you have a budget balance and actually even a budget surplus. They did with Bill Clinton. And now that we're in bad times, you spend only during an economic recession. To me, that's a fiscal conservative. That's where most Democrats are. But social conservatism, the idea that the government should tell you what religion to practice and enforce religion on people who don't practice that religion, that's entirely a Republican view and definitely not one shared by the Democrats.
Okay, Steve Doocy, so are we having troubles defining what a fiscal conservative is?
Well, I think it all comes down to where are you? As we've learned in this last election, Tom, you know, people have to pick a lane. If you're going to be a conservative, be a conservative. If you're going to be on the left, be on the left. And a lot of the people who were in the middle, they said, you know what, you come home, you are out of a job. So, and for libertarians who are in the middle, and for him to say that, I'm with you. I'm a little puzzled.
Dennis, I mean, that's that group. That's the group that's making things happen in this country right now. Is that group in the middle? And are they a little bit socially liberal, fiscally conservative? Exactly. Can you be?
Yeah. You know what? I got two problems with. First, on the exact issue itself. First of all, Jim DeMint, don't tell me how to think. Republicans get in trouble when you try to start telling us how to think. I am a fiscal conservative, but I'm what people would think is a hands-off or moderate on. You know, Jim DeMint wants a small government, but he wants government to be big enough to get into my bedroom. I don't think that's the way to get more votes. But as strategy,
Jim DeMint does not want to be in your bedroom.
As strategy, I really think that the Republicans are blowing it if they start moving on to the social front too soon. Look at these two sound bites of Hot Air, the aptly named Hot Air site. First guy agrees with DeMint, right? He says, look, the left loves to portray themselves as progressives or moderates by saying they're fiscally conservative but socially liberal. This simply means they're conservative with their own funds and socially liberal with yours. But then there's this, and this guy's right, and this is why Republicans should worry about statements like the senators, or DeMint's. Excuse me, tell you what, Jimbo, if you morons start getting loud with your social nonsense before you go to work on jobs in the economy, you're done. Just like the jug-eared dope and his minions. I think the Republicans ought to listen to that message.
Well, that's another whole part of it, is are they listening to us anyway? Next up, we got the Republicans looking to dismantle Obamacare. Now, this they could be listening to us about. Doctors, however, facing a 23% drop in Medicare reimbursement. That's coming up on December 1st. And this is going to be a very tough one, Steve, because there's a lot of doctors out there that are saying, I'm not going to take any more Medicare patients. And there's more and more boomers that are going to be forced into being with their Medicare card. And something's going to break here.
I've got kids who are associates, classmates with kids who are going to med school. And when you hear that news, why bother? Why should I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go to that Biology 12 class if I know that, you know, right out of the gate, they're going to whack me off 25%. Yeah. And then what waits around the corner?
Hey, Mark, it goes back to the whole business about fiscal, because you know, if we don't cut the doctors, then we're going to blow the budget. So which one do you want to do?
Well, we are, and let's face it, this is something that's been around since 1997, since it was put in place. It's got nothing whatsoever to do with health care reform. And in fact, the Democrats tried to put it on budget, to say, if we're going to make this doctor fix, we'll put it on budget from now for the future. And the Republicans voted it down. So now I think the Republicans are facing a lot of anger from their doctors. The truth is, everyone says they want to cut spending, but no one actually wants to cut it. The farmers want their subsidies. The doctors want their fix. People want their Social Security. When it comes down to specifics, nobody wants to cut spending.
And you know, this whole presidential debt reduction commission, Dennis, I mean, they're already screaming about that, because they said we're going to have some cuts and some hikes in taxes.
But let the cuts be done with smarts and surgery, not with a bludgeoned, blunt axe. And when you say, here's the way we're going to cut, we'll just cut doctor payments 25%. That's a very clumsy way. You ought to go after utilization. I'll bet you 10 to 20% of all Medicare customers, let's call them, utilize 80% of the actual cost of care. Now, why don't you instead zoom up on those guys and figure out what you can do? There's other things you can do rather than just saying cut. And unintended consequences happen, Tom. You know, Medicare just decided that we're going to cut medical equipment to save money. We're just going to cut the reimbursement, but we'll leave it for surgeons. In prostate cancer, I know of a company whose business is down 20% because it can't sell more seeds because they've been cutting the reimbursement there, and doctors instead are saying, I'm going to perform surgery because I'll get more reimbursement. The unintended consequences ripple through when you do blunt things like this.
All right, unintended consequences brings us to the social networks, and you know about Facebook, and you've got to watch what you say on Facebook, do you? Well, a Connecticut woman was fired after posting disparaging remarks about her boss on Facebook and sharing the comments with the world. So in a first-of-its-kind legal case, federal authorities say her comments are protected free speech. Dennis, you want to take this one?
She is not protected at all. You know what? We have free speech until we decide we want a job. I better be careful what I say publicly if I want to work for Fox. And the reason the NLRB said this is because two workers ought to be allowed to get together, two union members, and say, my boss, really, I don't like him. Yeah, I can see why you don't like him. But when you do that on Facebook, you're reaching an audience that potentially could be far larger than just your fellow worker. And I would like to see President Obama agree to the similar thing. If one of his workers decides to criticize him on Facebook, he's not going to fire the guy.
So, Steve, do you want to repeat to me what you were telling me about Roger Ailes a few minutes ago?
Now, that would be funny. Let's just talk about personal responsibility.
I mean, isn't that what it is? Water cooler talk. You and I can talk about the boss.
Right.
But when you're blasting out to millions of people, then it's a different story.
You're stupid. It's like Brett Favre. Don't you think he would like to put that toothpaste back in the tube?
Yeah, yeah.
At least I hope that was. Yeah, but you know what I'm going for? Because people have got to be smart. Because you go out there and you put it on the Facebook and it's cache memory, it's there forever, and you are screwed.
He really said nothing but nice things about Roger. Really, he did. Mark, where are you on this one?
I agree. It was not smart to do that at all. I'm amazed by all the things that people put on Facebook, and then they're surprised. What? You found that out about me? You know, George Bush spied on all these millions of Americans, but he didn't need to. They were all putting it on Facebook. It's really not very smart. I don't think she's protected. She would be protected if she said it in a private email maybe or something like that. But Facebook is public. I'm afraid I agree with the other two.
You know what? And even her union rep said, forget it. We're not backing you on this one. Mark Levine, thank you so much. And Steve Ducey, Dennis Neal, thank you. Thanks, guys, very much. All men today.
Your chance to win at Comment Roulette is